Have you had a chance to check out the new Aurora Flex Nibs yet? What are your thoughts on those? Well, yes, I have had a chance. And actually, I thought this was a really good opportunity. You know, it's always tough when we are in this situation where we have something where there's so much interest in a product like this, but yet I know we're going to get so small amount of stock, and it's a really high priced item like this. You know, you're pushing the $500 range for these pens. So I wanted to give you as much information and attention as I could, but at the same time, it's a pen that's going to be like here and gone, and then it will not be back again. Doing like a full-on video review is hard to justify. So I'm going to try to cover it as thoroughly in here, and then we'll try to slice it out and make it its own thing. But anyway, so several weeks ago, when I got to actually meet the Nibmeister, like literally some folks from Aurora came to our place, and that was really cool to get to meet them. They're great people. You know, just super energetic, super Italian. It's just like, it's awesome. Their energy is amazing. And they know pens. I mean, they've been doing pens certainly longer. They've been doing pens longer than my family's even been in this country. So it's crazy. They brought their Nibmeister, who actually designed these Flex Nibs, and he doesn't even speak English, so he had to have a translator. And so I was asking him questions, and he was showing me how he did the nibs and all this kind of stuff through a translator. It was a very interesting experience, but it was really cool. So I got to have some more detailed explanation of how these things are actually done. So I'm going to get into in just a couple minutes here of how they actually write, but I just want to explain a little bit like kind of how they make and design these things. So first off, before I get into it, the pen model itself is the 88. So it's, I'm going to zoom in a little bit so I can show it to you. It's a pen model that we haven't had here at Goulet before. So it's kind of new to us. It's not vastly different from the Optima. The Optima is a pen that I have around here somewhere. I forget where it is. Yeah, here we go. So the Optima's one, I did a full video on it. You know, a little bit different design. You know, of course, it's got the different pattern on it. The band is more decorative and stuff like that, but the guts of the pen are almost identical. You know, very similar nib. It's got the ink window. It's got an ebonite feed on both of them, piston fill with a little reservoir in the back of it for extra ink. So both of those are the same. So if you're kind of a toss-up between the Optima and the 88, they're not vastly different from each other. So just go with whichever one looks better to you. The different thing about this one, though, is the Flex Nib, of course. And they're doing it in a solid color. And typically when they do the 88, they do a body color, and then they have a black grip. Just like on the Optimas, it's always a black grip. So for the LE on these 88s, they are doing the grip color to match the body, which I think is a nice touch. So that's kind of cool. And then it's just got a subtle little Aurora logo here on the front, and then it's got the number inscription that's on the back of the cap, so you can see kind of the finer. And they infilled it with gold too, which is a nice little touch for the gold trim on these. You know, the nibs are interchangeable. You can actually unscrew the nibs from these two models of pens. So you can either change them between 88s or between 88 and Optima. They unscrew and just screw back in as a whole nib unit. So that's kind of cool. Even if you don't have a different pen to exchange it out with, you can remove it and you can put the, you can use it to clean it out a little bit easier, which is kind of nice, especially for a piston filling pen like this, to be able to do that. So on the right here, I have the regular nib. This is on the Aurora Optima. And on the left, I have the nib that's the Flex Nib on the Aurora 88. And you can tell a little bit of the difference visually just by the fact that the wings are cut differently. They're cut a little bit deeper on the Flex Nib. And what that does is that allows for more flexibility. It's less material, so it's going to flex a little bit more. And from what the Nibmeister was explaining to me from Aurora was the nib itself is actually a little bit thinner. So they actually thin out the material to make it more flexible, and they do something different with the tipping too, in order to allow it to flex a bit more. And they said they had to do all different kinds of tests to make sure that they could get just the right balance between softness but enough rigidity and pushback so that you didn't just mush the nib down and spring the tines immediately. And they said they kind of went until they mushed it and you couldn't, it was unusable kind of, and then they brought it back a little bit. So what they have now is after many, many tests of finding kind of just that right balance. And it's all handwork too that's done, all handwork, and it takes a lot of time. That's why they're only doing 188 of these pens, is because it just takes that long to do this many nibs. It's the only pen that they're offering this flex nib on, is this special, you know, limited edition 88, and they're going to be coming out in very limited numbers. So they only have, I think they said they have like 3 or 4 different Nibmeisters in-house, but even still, all of them working, of course, on all the other normal Aurora nibs, but then also on the flex ones too. It just takes a lot of time, so you're not going to see these things just cranked out. So that's why you may see kind of a high demand for these, because there's just not that many pens. Let's see, I make sure I covered everything. So yeah, they're going to start out with the blue one. The red one's going to be next. I'm not sure what's going to come after that. I know there's a few other colors that they have planned out. I saw Pen Addict did a really good review of the orange one. So check that out if you haven't seen it already. And then I wanted to take a little bit deeper dive and kind of show you exactly how these pens write and even compare it to a couple other pens. So let's go ahead and do that. So there were kind of 3 other pens that I thought to compare this Aurora Flex Nib to. I got the Pilot Falcon, the Noodler's Ahab, and the Omas 14 karat, which is of course not available anymore. But the Aurora is a little bit wetter than most of these. Even though it's a fine flex, I find that it's quite wet. You know, it's got an ebonite feed, it's got pretty generous flow, and the flex is pretty good. It's a very smooth nib, I will say that. And the wetter and the broader the nibs get, usually the more smooth they're going to be, or smoother you could say. Very generous ink flow, so I like that about it a lot. Comparing it to, you know, Pilot Falcon, I've got a soft medium nib here. It's got similar responsiveness to a Falcon, really. So if you like the way the Falcon works, then I think that would be a good way for you to go. You know, it's a similar line variation to probably a Pilot medium. Soft medium there. The Noodler's Ahab is going to be finer, but it is definitely more concerted effort in order to get it to flex. So it's, in terms of its hardness and the flexibility, it's way easier to use than an Ahab, but you know, obviously there's a huge price difference there. And then kind of the easiest that I've used of a modern flex nib is the Omas nib, and that one is very soft, and the Aurora is not quite that. You know, I've seen some other reviews that people are starting to do online with these Aurora nibs, and they're saying, well, it's not an Omas nib, and that's true. It is a little bit different. You know, and I was talking to the Nibmeister, and he was saying that as he was grinding this, they did make a softer version of the flex, but it was springing too much, and they didn't want that to be an issue. And I know from selling Omas before, that was an issue with a lot of people who would buy them. So I think they found a nice balance here with these. There's really good line variation. Again, very generous wet flow. So it's not necessarily going to be the pen if you want the absolute finest line variation between, you know, thin and thick. You know, the Ahab will actually get you there a little bit more, but again, it's going to take a lot more effort to get you there. So I think if you're looking for a nice pen, a beautiful pen body, piston fill, ebonite feed, gold nib with a lot of flexibility to it that you can also use as a good daily writer, this is going to be the one for you. So there you go. I hope that helps you out. Just a reminder here, the pens are extremely limited, and so the demand is going to be kind of hot for them, and it's going to be a one and done deal. Like once these blue ones are done, they're all claimed already. Like we're getting shorted from what we even ordered, and I know around the world they're done. So it's like, it's going to be here and then gone. So if you're really interested in it, go ahead and jump on it because they're going to be gone. So since they're not here yet, go ahead and sign up for the email notification list on our site if you're interested in them. And then as soon as that email notification comes in, go ahead and jump on it. So be ready for that. That's going to be the quickest and best way to do it. We'll try to give you a heads up as to when we're getting them in beforehand, but that's the best way to do it.